hero that we haven't seen as much of recently. The Underlord makes its way into the first phase for Geek Fam. What do you guys think about these opens?
I think Underlord is an incredibly strong opening against the Lone Druid. I think you just send one support down with him, and you can actually pressure a Lone Druid, unless it's going to be a mid-Lone Druid. And having a Weaver as well, I think Weaver is one of the better heroes to deal with Lone Druid, simply because you can just take away all the armor from him and his bear, and whether or not you decide to kill the bear or just him, it helps tremendously.
I think more than anything, the Pit Lord fits the Geek Fam playstyle, especially Velos. Remember earlier I was telling you about his Timbersaw. He goes Vanguard first. He goes Hood first. And the reason he does that is that they have
a meta, right?
Yeah, they just like to group up and push. And I don't think there's a better offlaner for that, right? Like Pit Lord with his Atrophy Aura is just built for that. And of course his ultimate can move the whole team around. Yeah. Never mind, all of the stuff that Steven said about like the hero's advantage that you have over against Lone Druid. So I think it's a very strong opening for Geek Fam, and I think earlier today we saw them being the underdog arguably and taking down a stronger team. We might see them to do very well here.
And I'll add to that we saw earlier the option to run the Weaver at the 4 position. We saw earlier how that 4 position Weaver with Ags, both in terms of his ability to save the hero, the same idea, like you have now a whole team that can go forward, play a little bit more aggressive, knowing that you have that potential Aghanim's Weaver in your back pocket and his skill ability in the late game. And Core Weaver is no slouch against the Lone Druid by any means either.
Yep.
If they do go for the 4-position Weaver and he ends up getting a Scepter, it's like a very defensive lineup so far, because you have Time Lapse to save someone, and you also have a Dark Rift to get everyone out as well. So far, really strong opening from Geek Fam, and I think this is actually one of the strengths of Geek Fam. Like you mentioned,
team pick.
Kind of an underdog against TNC, but their drafting is what helped them win that game, I feel.
Sure.
Very true. Now, I think the other thing you look at with an Underlord is I like to see Underlord, in my opinion, become so much more powerful if you have also multiple sources of wave clear, especially mobile wave clear. If you can get two lanes pushed at the same time with an Underlord, all of a sudden you turn one tower into 2.
Radiant team pick.
I could see that. I mean, would you count Sanking?
Exactly. That's what I wanted to see out of the middle of this draft, was Geek Fam starting to draft with an eye toward getting that wave clear advantage here. Now all of a sudden that really nullifies the potential of the Lone Druid to do what he did in the last game and get ahead and just start eating your towers.
Once again, Geek Fam just have really strong team fights so far. Pit of Malice and a Burrow Strike. People are not going to be moving in these team fights if they're caught by any of these.
You know what? I have not seen a Shadow Demon at all these patches, and I believe when Steve and I were casting it was just like first phase ban every single time, or first phase pick.
So SD Luna,
yeah, I wonder.
SD Alk, man.
Yeah,
I mean, there have been a couple of drafts that we've seen already that I thought SD would have fit into, but yeah, that here has fallen out of favor a bit.
Would it be good here? For clutch gamers, I mean.
I think if you're looking to pick up a SD, it's mostly for protection for the Lone Druid, and against these 3 Geek Fam heroes, I don't think an SD is necessary.
Yeah.
Dire team pick.
All right, Elder Titan. We haven't seen much Elder Titan in the past, but
second time we've seen it already tonight.
Yeah. Is he making a comeback? I'm trying to think of why he would.
I don't know that it's necessarily a comeback, but I do think it's a hero that is still situationally really good. Like we saw it earlier in a lineup that had a lot of other sources of minus armor, and all of a sudden, you get that ET aura, and you're stacking minus armor on top of that, and you're guaranteed of it being that much more effective. Like the last time we saw it, I believe he had the Weaver on the same side.
I think the ET gets stronger when you are pairing up with other kind of crowd control abilities. Like we had, I believe, Ice Clockwork that game.
Yes.
There was the Nuts Upheaval. So there was a lot of stuff that the opposition has to dance around. So yeah, I think Clutch need to pair some more AoE. And
so
now
there
they
you go.
have
I mean, you got the call as kind of an additional setup for ET, but it's still you've got the Lone Druid, and you're really stacking utility around the Lone Druid. But to me, whenever you're doing that, you run the risk of, if that Lone Druid gets shut down early, what's really going to be your fallback? You still do have a 5th pick, but you got Lone Druid and kind of 3 very much utility oriented heroes.
I feel like this game is going to rely very heavily on Axe getting a good start.
Yep.
Because so far, I feel like GeekFam, they're just winning on all the team fight.
Radiant team
edge. They have the
back.
team fight
I
edge.
think they have the team fight edge, and they potentially have the wave clear edge. Like it's just, I don't know. I struggle to see what, definitely you have 3 heroes that can all enable the Lone Druid, but you
10
need to tick some more of those
remaining.
boxes. You need distinct areas in which you're going to have the advantage.
5
I think they just need. I think they
seconds
really
remaining.
need a mid hero that offers a ton of AOE. I think I would like to see.
5 seconds
I
remaining.
think Shadow Fiend. You think Shadow Fiend would be okay? I think Shadow Fiend would
Radiant
be okay.
team pick.
Picking a Shadow Fiend blind into this lineup might be
Yeah,
a bit scary.
It's so scary, right?
Oh wait, it's the first ban, so it's out of the question anyway.
Yeah, but again, kind of same idea,
Dire
right?
team
You get a hero that's a lane dominator with a ton of AOE potential. They did. We probably should have called that given the 5th ban sniper, right? You don't necessarily 5th ban sniper in this situation unless you're going to go for that OD. But I still think it's a
10
scary
seconds
OD game,
remaining.
man.
And this can always be a support weaver
5
if they really
seconds
wanted to.
remaining.
They can
Exactly.
pick something else.
Nah, you don't.
It has to be a no. It has to be a core.
It's
at
almost
this
got to
point,
be a
right?
core at this point. Yeah, I think it's a core, and you pick a mid here, and I guess. Oh.
I mean,
boy.
Tinker traditionally has a okay matchup against OD, but I don't know if it fits here. My concern, you guys are saying you've preferred a Geek Fam draft. I think the opposite. I feel like, at least in the first 25 minutes, Clutch has massive amount of magic damage, or just damage overall. And Firestorm was a swarm from Weaver. Like, these are good AoE spells, but it's not big bursty nukes. So I
Got
feel
the
like...
Sand King.
You got.
I mean,
Sand
it
King,
just
you
says
got-
Sand King.
No, you're.
I mean, Disruptor Storm is not the highest damage. Firestorm is also not the greatest. Like, they add up to a lot. And this is
That's
a Razor.
That is a really good pick. That potentially controls the OD in the mid lane. I don't know. I like this Geek Fam draft a lot, actually.
This is a tough call, though.
Is this...
This is a tough call. I mean, I definitely agree with Nahaz. I like the Geek Fam draft a lot, but I wouldn't say I like it to the point where I can easily decide that this is Geek Fam favorite. And there's a lot on the line for us to predict. We're keeping stats.
No, we're keeping stats, and no one wants to endure me memeing again. I mean, that was unpleasant. I feel like I gotta go for Geek Fam here. I feel like they have good solid lanes, and if they can delay the Axe Blink, right? Does Clutch Gamers, if they delay the Axe Blink, does Clutch Gamers really have any kind of initiation outside of that?
Well, the thing is, they always have a counter initiation in the ET. So,
True.
like Clutch Gamers, they have a really strong core duo. If you can't catch out the Lone Druid and the OD together, like both of them could just rail your team down. So it's still a pretty scary lineup from Clutch Gamers.
Yeah, I like the Razor final pick. Good against the OD in lane. Obviously, you could drain damage from the bear, so you kind of get big there as well.
It's the thing about the Razor pick is that it always sounds good on paper, but at the end of the day, it's a Razor. That's what really.
Is that
scares
why
me.
you're not?
That's why. Yeah, that's why I'm kind of having a hard time deciding.
Okay, well, we got to make a prediction now.
Yeah, I need a pick, guys. I got Geek Fam here. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with Clutch Gamers.
Okay.
I am putting my 4-0 record on the line here. I'm gonna go with Clutch Gamers.
I mean, I had doubts with the Geek Fam draft. I think the first 25 minutes, like especially with the early blink with the Lone Druid, I think Clutch Gamer is gonna be strong there. So
30 seconds.
gonna go with my
to
gut
back.
feeling, but I'm not as sure I was.
You're going Clutch?
Yeah, I'm going Clutch.
Okay, all right.
Lumi, why?
I'm all alone on an island again. Last time it happened, it worked out for you guys. We'll see. With that, though, we are going to send it off to our casters. Here's Lyrical and Blaze.
So you won't be as effective at soaking away the damage of the Lone Druid himself as you would be against the OD after he drops an Astral Prison, but you will be able to just make sure that you have a lot of high damage output yourself and be able to push out the waves. I can see it's actually going to go for the Aquila, so no bottle build here, but I think that Tiki is going to be still comfortable no matter what matchup, but he's not shutting down the OD the way he wanted to. All right.
And Underlord, in the meantime, is going to be relegated down here to the bottom lane. Does look like they are going to bring the ET and the CM. It's some nuke damage. Again, you've got an Echo Stomp, which is decent at being able to get that control, put yourself in a good position to try and body block Velo, but might be a bit tough.
Nobody caught the talent here, so that's a little bit awkward as it is going to be dropping down very quickly. You want to make sure that the range creep doesn't get to the front line and stays alive as long as possible so that Velo doesn't get a comfortable laning configuration. But as it stands right now, it is going to be just your standard Poorman's Shield opener for the Underlord, and he's going to be right up in the face of this OD.
Yeah, and that actually got to the full point where it was able to be denied as well.
Yeah, that's the thing, is if the range creep gets in front and the support doesn't just soak up a couple attacks from it, it's always going to be the thing that the melee creeps go first, and in that case it actually is quite problematic. They lose out on a lot of people in the room. You're going to see it push very heavily.
Well, meanwhile, in the top lane, things going a little bit better for Geek Fam. You can see that the Disruptor's going to get the bullets off.
Very, very annoying for the Axe here. Because of that Observer Ward you talked about before, now Hannah can't safely jungle. He's got the Shrine nearby, so he's not going to be going down at all. But it's just so annoying that Rodgeek can soak all of his experience away and also steal some of his creeps there.
Yeah, it's very frustrating indeed. And, well, even can go in to try and finish it off. He wants about half HP, though, so probably not worth it. And then they'll be able to battle for that 2-minute rune as well. But yeah, things going definitely a lot better for Geek Fam up top, and they have been able to get the D ward as well, I believe. So this is going to be able to get the pull, but it's going to have to wait till the 3-minute mark. And again, Raji just being a really pestilence here.
Yeah, there's a lot less value in the Axe now, and gets the bounty rune away from him. Definitely worth the Burrow Strike in my mind, at least for that, you know, psychological value if nothing else.
God, I'd be so mad if I was Hannah right now.
Like, you can't even jungle as an Axe. I mean, what good is Dota if you can't jungle as an Axe? But no, Crimson's doing a great job of zoning him out up top. This ward is really doing work where he just can't find any free farm.
Looks like Teehee is opting to instead static link the lone druid.
He's done the bear a couple times, but it's just about how best he can trade hits and if he feels he's able to close the distance on lone druid. In the meantime, you have to look at this ability Rabid and note that it has an 18-second duration at level 1. So at level 1, he's only be able to use it actively because he has a Crystal Maiden, and that's kind of helping him out too. Right. He needs to get his boots up as soon as possible, though.
But he is just getting completely destroyed. Like, this is the huge problem. 16-8 versus 7-1. This is the hero that you're supposed to pick because, like, and switch lanes because that way OD can have a good time. But, I mean, OD's having a decent time in lane. It's really just... How do you come back at this point as a lone druid? Is it by virtue of needing somebody to come and gank him, or is it okay that he's not getting as much out of the laning phase? I
mean, as he moves in towards like about level 10, he's still going to be able to farm up the jungle very quickly, push out towers. It's just the lane's going to suck for him. They had to make a choice. I mean, it's not like they chose to match up against the Razor. The Razor was the last pick in this draft, and they just called the audible and said, we would rather the OD get free farm and the lone druid do a little bit worse than the other way around. So it does suck for Abing, no doubt about it, but I do think that he has better tools to get back into the game than the OD would.
You can see there as well. ET just continuing to pressure out and mess with Velo, best of his abilities. Did end up actually going still for the... This is the thing that I was always curious about, was how Underlords are going to play the early levels since Atrophiora is so terrible at the level 1 point. Do you think it's worth 4%. It in this lane to go up to the next, or is it just not even really that valuable?
I mean, obviously they didn't hurt its its max value, right? It's still 40% at max, and it's just much weaker at level or the earlier levels. So it is even more valuable to scale it up at faster now. Like, if it's worth getting at all, it's worth maxing out fairly early on. So you probably do like a 4-1-4 build in this kind of state.
All right. So top lane, Weaver still topping the CS charts as well. He's almost got that Aquila, and we'll finish it off now. Sometimes we've been seeing in these Southeast Asian games, Weaver's going for the no boots build and then into some big items early on. Do you like that style of play in this game since he's already gotten to a decent start?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some limiting factors in terms of like the frostbites and the root effects that can make movement speed relatively ineffective anyways as far as chasing and reliably chasing. So I think that just getting the extra range here from the Dragonlance as a starting point is pretty solid. I don't think that he should push it further and like just go for a no boots the whole game build. We're much more looking at like a transitional build where he gets a little bit more damage and push and then he goes back for the boots.
And And we can see right now as well the level 2 axe. It is just painful. Like, they got the stacks for him as well, but he's really not having a good time here. And he can get the call, maybe finish it off to get level 3, but he's just not going to be able to provide much to his team here early.
Yeah, eating both trends and still doing so poorly really is just unfortunate for him as a whole. And this is a game where you really wish he had like a Winter Wyvern. And Rocky's still at it. He's going to be able to caustic and burrow and steal 2 of these creeps.
Oh god, that is so painful.
At least they'll get the kill. This is first blood here. Rodgi does not have a way out of this one.
They all get in on the action. They're just going to take him down. Give the kill over to the Lone Druid. I mean, okay. It might have been nice to give Axe that little bit of solace for himself, but maybe just seeing the Sand King die is enough for him.
I still think that it's a moral victory that Sand King continues to just be the nuisance, and I've been in that position a lot of times where it's like, you don't have to go next to their tier 2 tower and ruin the jungler's farm, but you can, and you want to make that a statement.
Yeah. I'm going to be in your head this entire game. Deal with it.
Yeah, it's definitely a psychological value, and he's back. He's shrine number 3. Yep, 3 shrines for Hannah to start off this early game, and his CS total right now as an Axe is 13 creeps.
Well, and I think it's worth noting again to people, it's not necessarily that Axe is doing anything wrong here. This is all about the Sand King being a menace and making the correct plays and reading where he's going to be. And he's already level 4. Like, he is up there with the Axe above him now, going to be able to keep messing consistently. And, well, it's a tough life. Anything else that's really catching your eye as far as the laning stage is concerned? The Helm of the Dominator on the OD, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Seems like it's kind of... Oh, he went...
So he went for the headdress, but he's got a Midas queued up. So it's pretty interesting here. I think that there are a lot of OD players that would prefer the Dominator at this point, just because the attack speed, the raw stats, the sustainability. That item is just... gives you the whole picture and is able to give you pretty much everything that you would want. It's a very nice package, and I just think that in this case he says, well, I could go that and have a lot of tempo, but I'm free farming. And while it sucks to be the Lone Druid, it sucks to be the Axe in this situation, I'm OD and I'm doing really well. So he wants to kind of push that even further. And I don't think that's the wrong choice. I think that actually can continue to propel himself forward as the game goes on. It's a very good time.
We were actually talking about this in between games a little bit. There was a couple of decisions to, like, I think it was the Earth Spirit game again where they went for like a Blink Dagger on him instead of the Midas early. And it's the idea of like going for more economical punishment as opposed to going for trying to continue to like kill heroes over and over again punishment. And it's very interesting to see which players decide to go which route. Not that one is better than the other necessarily, but...
Yeah, it can definitely come down to personal preference. It also is kind of a recognition of the state of the game that a hero like Underlord makes it very hard to break high ground. The game will be dragged out by like at least 5 minutes just because you're up against an Underlord. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast when he's got that one of the best spells in the game in Firestorm.
So frustrating to deal with. And speaking of him, he has gotten his level 6 now. 2 points in the Pit of Malice, so valuing that fairly highly.
Yeah, I guess it's just for like a little bit of extra jungle damage for using the Atrophy Aura, and obviously he didn't pick up the Atrophy Aura for a 4% base damage reduction. I'm afraid that's just not realistic. So yeah, just getting a little bit extra bonus damage, gets him online quicker, and yeah, now going to be focusing on his AoE control.
All right.
I think he skips ultimate here, maybe picks it up at level 8, but definitely not sooner than that.
Okay. Well, still no great movement as far as like rotations and trying to find kills in this game. It's been very much an economic one, and it's come to the tune of, well, just about even actually. Geekfam maybe a slight lead, and you think that at this point with the Underlord being able to hold high ground late, they're comfortable with like the Weaver going into a very late game scenario against the Lone Druid. Is that just a pretty good counter or answer in general to the hero?
Hard to say. The tempo of this game is actually pretty interesting because I don't feel like either one of them are just extremely vulnerable at the late game. Like, I feel that both of them love to have tempo and love to accelerate. Raze is a hero that wants kills, wants towers, but you can say the same thing about the Lone Druid. I feel like I might favor the ET, Axe, and OD just because their potential for really good team fighting as the game goes on, but it's not clear-cut one way or another.
Yeah. Maybe much more about the ways that those team fights start, initiate, and stuff.
Exactly.
And what we end up seeing in the mid game as well, of course.
Xyclopz is going to be one of those guys. He's going to go for the no boots Weaver build, Desolator, Dragonlance, and just relying a lot on his Shikuchi to keep him mobile.
I remember seeing a game just the other day in the open qualifiers where it was Helma the Dominator Radiance Weaver. That was the dream. It was beautiful to watch, and then they lost the game. So very glad to not see that Sionix here. Going to be seeing a different type of build, and Axe has caught up quite handedly, level 7 for himself now. So all is not bad. He's still a bit behind that Underlord, but the Iron Talon is a good item still.
It certainly is. It's very potent, and it's going to allow everybody to kind of keep up the values they want. The OD still top of the net worth by a pretty significant margin, and as I was mentioning, the Lone Druid isn't kept down for long. Yeah, his CS looks bad, but you just directly compare it to Teehee, but he can very quickly catch that back up. It's the laning stage sucks, but after that you get more movement speed. Now he's got phase and nearly max rabid, and he's just got options in terms of like farming up the jungle and alternatives.
All right, well, another big rotation moving in. They don't have Epicenter here.
They got kinetic static. If they catch anybody, they're dead. Like, you don't need an Epicenter to secure a kill like this.
They Frostbite for the moment. Velo, they drop it down, but the counter initiation play is going to come out. They end up dropping the Static Storm. The kinetic field was there to try and catch the CM, and she is going to end up falling, and maybe Amel as well in some trouble. He got caught right on the tip of that. Well, Pit of Malice ends up getting Burrow struck in. The right clicks is going to be enough to find that kill. Everybody is so low, but he's able to Sandstorm away before they find that kill. Just barely gone, and Echo Stomp not going to find it. Pit of Malice laid down again. A great rotation for Geek Fam.
Yeah, very nice Sandstorm disjoint there, making the kill happen and bringing them a lot closer to Blink Dagger on the Sand King. They don't really have surprise initiations unless they're coming out of smoke like that, or when that Blink Dagger comes online. And I just want to juxtapose that to the Axe. I mean, we have a pretty much like same net worth value between this 4-position Sand King and that offlane Axe. The Axe has a slight point of advantage, but I mean, he was supposed to be doing a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So overall, I would have to say Rodgi is so far the MVP of this game.
Sand King doing it good. And this is something that it fell out of favor a little bit. We saw some of it again in the open qualifiers. Particularly, I think it was Derp who was playing the Sand King in the NAs and was able to make it work. But a Razor Midas also. So a couple of them across the board. Everybody wants to get geared up for that late game.
Yep, and it's actually going to be Sionix to pick up Boombacks under tower here. Just a pretty easy cleanup for him. So really just shows how vulnerable Crystal Maiden can be in this kind of under-farm situation. Actually going to see Velo pop the ultimate. Where are they going with it? Is it just him?
Okay.
All right, well, it's a TP scroll.
Sure.
It's a 130-second cooldown TP scroll. It's pretty nice.
I mean, it's... I guess that just sort of signals they're not worried about trying to use it to like take objectives and immediately move afterwards.
They feel very comfortable in their position on the map and the way the creep waves are pushed out. They don't really feel like they need to make a snap movement one way or another. In fact, they're going to kill COD a little bit here. Even if he self-imprisons, he's still going to be in a really rough spot. He imprisons the Razor, comes back, gets killed off, and now Teehee has a ton of damage to bring against the Elder Titan.
Well, over here in the bottom lane, they've been able to jump onto the Weaver. Oh, he gets the time lapse off. They weren't quite able to finish it off, so that's going to be the CM ulti committed and the blink reveal, and they don't even end up picking up a kill after they lose their OD.
So, very nice overall movement here for Geek Fam, 4-1. And as far as towers go, everything seems pretty healthy on both sides. Actually, bottom tier 1 down to 109, so gives reasoning for why they keep on teleporting heroes down there for Clutch Gamers. They really want to try to make sure they keep that part of the map alive, but a glimpse back on Armel, and Prism would not help him there due to the mechanic of glimpse and how strong it's going to be in this game. I mean, you think of a lot of heroes that want to get a jump in. You get an Axe that gets a perfect call, and then maybe he'll be able to pull the enemy towards his previous location, but he won't be able to get the blade mail or spin damage that he really wants.
Yeah, and now we're getting close also to that Sand King Blink Dagger. He has Epicenter available, only a couple of 100 gold away, and this is a big movement right now by Clutch Gamers to try and shut him down beforehand. They get the scan as well. This would be such a huge kill if they can kill him off before he gets his blink. They want to do it. Blink call, ends up dropping the whole kit and caboodle, and that is going to be a dead Sand King. Big kill.
Yeah, first big pickup of this game, I would say, and now Clutch Gamers finding themselves in a clutch situation where they can try to pursue an objective up top. after delaying that critical blink
Radiant's
dagger.
bottom
In the
tower
meantime,
has
though,
fallen.
Hello gets himself up. His mechanism no problem at all, and
Radiant's
is
middle
rapidly
tower
moving in
is
towards the
under
Pipe of
attack.
Insight. Giving that kind of durability
Dire's
to a
top
hero like
tower
Razor,
is under
you can just
attack.
go in so deep and so aggressively.
Dire's structures are fortified.
Well, maybe Clutch Gamers here feeling the pain definitely, and it's also
Dire's
a
top tower
type of
has fallen.
lineup from Geek Fam that's so heavily able to punish. We talked a
Radiant's
little bit
bottom
about it
tower
earlier,
is under
but
attack.
the Disruptor being able to glimpse out heroes as they come to try and defend a tower, you know, you pair that together with the Underlord's mobility, and
Radiant's middle tower
it's just
is
going to
under
constantly
attack.
create these situations where it's 4-on-5 or something that looks similar to that.
Yeah, it actually makes Disruptor out to be a pretty good push hero that you can just let somebody out there when they want to TP in.
Oh, top lane, maybe able to get it. They do find that dunk. Nicely done. They're able to kill off Raji again. That's the second time before. Oh, he got his
No,
blink
he got the
here.
dagger at least. That would have
Okay.
been a very painful if not, but the
Dire's
tower down
top
bottom
tower is
gave
under
him the
attack.
bounty that he needed, so he's
Radiant
fine.
structures
And in fact,
are
they're going to be able to
fortified.
bring down this tier 1 as well, or
Dire's
not.
structures
Actually going to be
are
Underlord already
fortified.
on his way out. Puts him in a dangerous position. They do get the last in the
Radiant's
tower,
middle
and they
tower
will be
has
able to slip
fallen.
away.
So this was a lineup when VGJ was qualifying for DAC and for Starladder. It was off the back of Underlord and Disruptor. It was like the two big heroes in China that were always working, and the synergy of just being able to run down those lanes and, you know, also have the strong team fights, just great in combination together. Axe, in the meantime, they're all going to get caught. They get slept in some trouble. Static Storm, it's already been dropped. They need to be able to pull him back into it, but Raji's already gone. Up on the high ground, Armel making it work. The CM ulti in conjunction with the right clicks and the Sanity's Eclipse. Geek Fam walked into hell and not looking like they're going to be able to get out with everybody.
I believe there is a quotation about this area being mine. Crystal Maiden, holding the high ground, no problem at all. Frostbite's the epicenter, cancels that out immediately, no hesitation at all. They pop the shrine, so you're team fighting uphill into an active enemy shrine where everybody's teleporting in, and you don't have any spells left to interrupt a freezing field. That is just a recipe for absolute disaster, and it's going to be Clutch Gamers getting some very key kills, as they were actually at a pretty significant deficit, and they're bringing them back rapidly.
Yeah, very well played. And CM also, I mean, going to be able to continue to enable her teammates is, well, still sitting at level 8 for herself, gets a couple D wards.
Yeah, it was very obvious there was ward vision for
Yeah.
that kind of a jump, so it's like, okay, well, free D ward, free, like, I mean, it just opens up this entire next stage of the game for them, I think.
Oh, he's in some trouble. Burrow Strike comes through.
Pretty easy kill, actually, but
Yeah.
if he had a TP, you can maybe theorize that he'd be perfectly fine. Instead, it's just going to be a gradual kill. Nothing too big to worry about. Sometimes you have to push out the lanes a little bit further as a support when your allies are taking the safe farming space. So you can see Boombacks goes out one camp, Hannah clears out another. You know, Elder Titan had to do what he did. And in the end, he's still very close to a Yule Scepter, even though he did just get picked off.
And in the meantime, they both try and go for the Rune Deny. Nobody's going to get that one, that's for sure. And it also gives you a ton of space up here top for the OD to try and farm. And he's been able to do that. Aji, they ping out. They know exactly where he is right now. And might be able to go for that play that we were talking about earlier where ET, they throw out one. They're able to find him. They get the Frostbite. Gonna maybe go down. They get the dunk. And that kinetic field is not nearly going to be good enough. Everybody slept. It's going to go through. And can they bring them down? Another Frostbite. Going to be able to keep control over that Weaver, but Razor is shown up as well now. They need to back out of here. Still being pulled in by the call from the Axe, but he still wants to go in deeper. He's able to take down another. Tons of damage. 182 on that Razor. Saving the day. And OD in the meantime, it's just on the other side of the map. No TP, buddy.
Yeah, that's an awkward position to be in, but I still think it was a really nice jump there, being able to first their target down as quickly as they did. Problem is, there wasn't much after the fact, and Razor provides an environment where he could just stay alive, so Fellow obliges with that, and even give them some mana here to work with as they go aggressive once more, getting a Pit of Malice essentially to zone them away from the Tier 2 tower, and they just finish that objective and back off.
You look at it, it could have been so much different had they been able to have the OD there. I wasn't sure if like he had a, I don't know, maybe a TP cancel or something.
I think it's doubtful. I think he
yeah.
just was confident that either his team would commit to smarter fights or just the aspect of him being able to force staff to move pretty quick. I mean, this hero naturally has a movement speed here, 360, and adding in, well, with the treads at least, and then having the Hurricane Pike on top of that, you feel pretty confident that you're able to move where you need to at the time, but Yeah, nothing's quicker than teleportation, and here we see that he just isn't at the right place at the right time. So, if you have to chalk it all up together, I would say that it's Clutch Gamers extending a little too far after that. They could have just gotten the Sand King and backed off, and they kind of pushed the fight a little bit too far.
So it's feeling to me as if the Geek Fam lineup is able to take these engagements when it's just a couple of heroes. Oh, you know what? Did he get glimpsed back? Is that maybe what happened?
We can call it that.
All right. I don't want to flame somebody unnecessarily. That's the only thing here. It could have been that potentially.
Could have been a lot of things. It's fine. In the end, the game is not going to be won or lost by one.
Right.
20-minute team fight where one of the heroes isn't there. It definitely comes down to a lot more than this.
Yeah.
This game is won or lost by like 5 or 6 team fights. It's not just going to be one and done unless we're in hyper late game.
Okay.
They're going to be a smoke play here from Clutch on mid, and I think they're going to be able to definitely find a target up top. Whether or not they get the initiation they want, though, is another story entirely.
It looks like they're heading into the jungle, or at least in towards it, and with the TP coming in from the Underlord, it's not necessarily the greatest target in the world to start your fight with. Raji moving in as well. We'll spot out that the Spirit is there from ET. That might dissuade them from going in any further. Hana jumps forward, able to find him. Nice play, and just, I guess it was this ward that gave vision of the general area, expecting he was over there. So a semi no-look blink.
Yeah, definitely blind at the time, but had a pretty good idea of what he was getting himself into. You're going to see a TP coming in at the shrine as a buyback for the Sand King.
Wants to go in, containing for the moment. The OD Sanity's Eclipse could...
Oh, boy.
Questionable.
Alt tab.
What are you doing?
Let it go. Okay, so we have the freezing field coming out here. Boom back to a lot of damage.
Combo down. Everybody from Geek Fam was not the fight to take. Oh, there's the ... when you need it. Oh my God. What a play.
All right. Well, I mean, I feel like that would have played out the same way without the pause. They hit their buttons. But, you know, it does look bad that the team that won the team fight was the team that paused in the middle of it. That was the ET. But, you know, dropping the sanities, having all that damage coming from the freezing field already, I think they just put themselves in a great position to succeed. I mean, that jump on the Sand King was one thing, but being able to just follow through with all this damage thanks to ET's natural order and generally a great lineup for those kinds of fights.
And a very kind of odd decision to buy back on the Sand King there. It felt to like, was there any real need for them to do that? Could they have just cut their losses and moved back? Or are they too worried about the tempo of the game going into the favor of Clutch then?
I feel like it was an opportunistic buyback. They were worried about Roshan going for free because, you know, you lose the Sand King, you don't buy back instantly, and they just say, okay, well, we have 5 heroes, we can take the Roche. That, on top of the fact that there was a shrine, there was a way to get to the fight quickly, he just had to make the decision to do so. I think it was okay for him to make that decision. I think that it's better to make that decision instantly and be wrong than to hesitate and have had to need to and fail to do so. So, very quick reaction. It's not like he's missing the gold, right?
Yeah.
Second gets Blink Dagger, he's happy.
Right.
You can get 4-stat, BKB, Yules, whatever, but the one item you really need is Blink. So getting that buyback gold and even dieback gold loss is not going to be changing the game enough for him to be regretting that decision. It was, again, opportunistic, but it was a decision he felt he had to make at the time, and while in hindsight it didn't turn out that effectively, I mostly blame this Crystal Maiden Boombacks getting off some sick ultimates. Really,
Yeah.
that's the second one in this game already.
That's been like the story of Tournament. We've been seeing so many CM ultis already. This hero, it's been quietly getting buffed, patch after patch after patch after patch. And I think also the Aghanim Scepter, granted you don't get it every single game, but it's amazing. It's
cool.
so good.
It's very cool. So that, I'm sure her talents are pretty effective too. Like the Frostbite duration at 25, if you can ever get there, is really solid. And just in general, you're talking about the Aghanim Scepter being impractical, but when you get a level 20 talent that gives you 120 GPM, it's not that far-fetched. It just means the game has to go a bit longer, and if we judge the first 3 games that went about 60 minutes apiece, it's pretty common in the region right now.
And I guess the other thing too is that it means that it's a hero you don't have to commit to the crazy early game. Like it's not like you have to win with CM before 30 minutes, otherwise the game's over. There's options for her to go late, and that's probably the biggest and most important thing.
And she still offers a lot to the lane. That's another big thing. Roots got buffed as well, so like heroes like Sand King are unable to burrow strike away from a root effect, which is a really big deal against certain heroes. And just in general, I think it's a good pick. Has a lot of potential to be played in a bunch of different playstyles, and will be effective on almost any draft. Very, very good for like a first phase selection in particular.
All right, a couple of deep wards now going to be placed. Looks like ET actually even going to place one up here on the high ground. So this is certainly not going to be expected and could be devastating a little bit later on in the game, showing the intention of Clutch Gamers to try and keep this pressure on. There's another scan used by the Dire. They could come back and defend this, or maybe even try and push for high ground, but with the tier 2 going down, this might be a pretty huge moment, that ward being placed and given vision.
Yep, so they're just waiting on the high ground. Perfect scenario for them to be able to fight, but they just get some freebies. They get a lot of chip damage on the mid. They take the bottom tier 2 in exchange for their own top. They still have 2 minutes on the Aegis as well. And yeah, I just feel like in this position they want to constantly be the aggressors. They want to constantly be aware of the enemy's position and punish even the slightest misstep. Well, Lincoln's up for Lone Druid, actually. Interesting. Really good against the Glimpse in particular, but there are quite a few good abilities to prevent, like the Burrow Strike.
They're all still grouped up. CM is the only one who has left, with the Razor in the other jungle as well. So, yeah, it's still probably a bit too scary to try and go for this big play. Granted, you do have the True Sight coming in from the Elder Titan, so you know that they don't have vision over you, but nonetheless, scary, scary moments. And actually CM is going to be underneath this Observer Ward as well. And she just has Tranquils and a Shadow Amulet. Kind of a neat little build for the CM there.
Yeah, I mean, gonna get the Glimmer Cape very shortly, and then it's gonna be even harder to prevent those ultimates. The Static Storm is gonna be the only reliable way to do so, since the Burrow Strike is already gonna be on cooldown from the initiation. That being said, yeah, it's mostly just so that you don't get because the easiest way to interrupt is just glimpsing her. We saw that a couple times previous game, but in this case now you Glimmer, you survive, and you let it go. It should be pretty easy.
You let it go. I like that.
Interesting enough, though, that he's keeping it level 1 for now. He actually prioritized everything else. I mean, he's got 14 skill points.
I think it's that mana cost. It becomes so much.
So it's actually deliberate because of his weak mana pool. Okay. Because I was gonna say, like, he definitely has a skill point. It's not like he made a trade-off and said, "Oh, I want to prioritize Crystal Nova or something." No, he straight up just doesn't want level 2 Freezing Field. All right, that's fine. I mean, I don't think it's a big enough damage boost to really justify a doubled mana cost, so I could see that being quite appropriate.
Well, and if you need the Glimmer Cape to deal with the Sand King as well, it's a pretty mana-intensive item as well.
Yeah, and then, you know, if you have to, in the middle of a fight, say, hey, I have a full mana pool, and you want to level your ulti and then use it, like, that only takes a fraction of a second for experienced players.
Oh, poor Raji. He does have a Burrow Strike, but, oh, okay, found one, trying to run, can he get it?
Oh,
they dropped the ulti as well. Yeah, would have been big, but not enough. And bottom lane, they'll get some more pressure out. You take those. The Sand King going down, again, I think that's pretty fine.
Most definitely here. Now, the OD is progressing very nicely. Obviously, showcasing why they wanted to put him in the safe lane here. Armel able to get himself Hurricane Pike, Rod of Atos, and now rapidly approaching Lincoln's in a really good spot. You juxtapose that to the Weaver, the opposing one position. And yeah, he's got BKB Dragonlance Dezo. Still doesn't have boots, but it's just like, I feel like the OD is just able to do so much more in these fights. He's just able to have a much higher impact with a comparable network.
Yeah, and granted, you do still have the Weaver eventually getting to that stage where he can take objectives more effectively and, you know, burn through these towers. But right now, the big thing that they need is the ability to take these team fights, and that's not really happening for him.
No. And he doesn't even feel confident split pushing. I'm just going to attribute it to the fact that he has 290 movement speed. Just because I want to flame the No Boots Weaver build a little bit more and see it a little bit less. But no, I mean, obviously, he still is packing a very big punch. He just has to Shikuchi everywhere.
Yeah, hard to deal with. Hard to make that your life that you live. And also, I mean, Aquila for mana regen's probably enough, as well as the wand. Looks like they're trying to set up for a kill down bottom.
Haven't seen this in a while. Velo goes for Hood Glimmer Cape. So he is going for really intensive magical mitigation and wants to be the saving grace for a few of his allies.
Well, it's a neat little build. I like it. I mean, it's a lot of... I guess it's not really single target damage. A lot of the AoE is going to be in... A lot of the magical damage is going to be coming in the AoE. But if there's just one hero that you have to save, either the Weaver or the Razor who got caught in it, like the most important heroes in your draft, basically, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're up against a natural order, so anything to allow them to soak up a little bit more is gonna be great. But I mean, we've already got the BKB for both of them, so it just seems rare that he's gonna actually be able to take full advantage of it.
Do you still go pipe, you think?
Yes. Because between Mjolnir and the OD Ultimate and the CM, who's been getting some really good damage out, you're always going to still need more to survive.
Well, speaking of that natural order, it didn't end up helping him at all there. Elder Titan again going to go down.
Could you imagine if it did, though? What if that you just hit a button, you just activate your aura, and you suddenly aren't getting ganked 1v4?
That sounds great. That's the new hero. We got the item build for it, the skill build. It's wonderful.
That would be an ability.
The ability is called Get Me Out.
Arteezy would love that one.
Yeah. Play it every game. Why not? All right, 11-9, 31 minutes into this one. It's still a net worth lead for Clutch Gamers. And again, it's feeling like all of these games are sort of on a razor's edge. There's not necessarily one team that's like constantly dominating, with the exception of Faceless, and it all comes down to who plays best in these best of ones.
Yeah, so right now, obviously, like I think it's very clear that it's going to be a couple more fights to determine really who's going to be the top dog in these exchanges, which mostly comes down to initiation. Right now, I would favor the Clutch Gamers actually like 65-35, just because they seem to have way more tools for getting in position for these fights and to do the follow through with various abilities. But that being said, geekfam still have a chance to make these fights work for them really, really well, and I don't know, it's just like, it comes down to one or two fights will turn into one tier 3, which turns into shrines, and then the map.
They know where they all are right now. Axe is leading the way, and he spotted them with that ward placed down by the CM. Can he get into range? Able to call there onto the Underlord, and, well, that might be enough to... I don't know if they can necessarily go high ground with it, possibly, but yeah, they don't have a creep wave there. Maybe they could think about it, but Roshan at the very least, it's...
Yeah, it looks
pretty
like
close.
The easier alternative. It's going to be spawning in 20 seconds. Hopefully they stick around long enough to learn that fact, as it is approaching max timer. So, like, you want to just, like, throw a creep in there, throw the bear in there, something, because you know that it's has to be up very soon.
Come on, guys. Do it.
Looks like it is not going to be scouted. So they don't actually get any objectives off with the Underlord pickup.
Maybe? Go? No. It's there. I don't think that they wanted to go anyways. It's still pretty scary with like Epicenter, and they don't know if Underlord has buyback.
They have enough right now that I think that they can even fight into the Epicenter and the Static Storm. Like, yeah, as long as you are 5v4, as long as you don't have to worry about the Underlord on top of it, I think they're okay. Because you have to realize there's no Guardian Greaves, there's no Limber Cape. Like, that's ways to keep each other alive.
OD is, I think, dead. He didn't have a Hurricane Pike there. He'd already used it. He ends up dropping, and now maybe a little bit more going back the other way. Fly Solo in trouble. They have a ton of right-click damage for him. They take down 2. They're in the Roche pit still currently, trying to take this down, but it might come at a big old cost.
Yeah, I think that we are going to be seeing Roshan go be worthwhile compared to the tier 2, but you have to buy back on the OD, which is still really painful. Like, you don't want to leave that just up for grabs against a team that's kind of better in the pit, but at the same time, like, I think it was just a mistake that they had to make the most out of. Once the OD was caught, like, there's no dealing with that. And in fact, it's geekfam that pull back before the OD buys back, so they're really not punished for it at all. It's still going to be a Roshan, and it's just going to be a golden experience exchange.
Yeah. Movement now is going to go towards the tier 2 tower, although, again, I'm not sure if they necessarily want to fight it. Axe is very much caught up at this point. We can say that for sure. Has the Crimson Guard now, as well as the Blade Mail and a hood for himself. So you jump into the middle of all those creeps, Weaver will melt still. Some survivability, but Axe is pretty great.
Axe is pretty great indeed. So we have some real potential for Clutch Gamers to close this one out, I think, within the next 8 or so minutes, because this Aegis will, you know, give you one good fight, which will get somebody's buyback on cooldown. It's just a chain of events that will lead to geekfam's demise. They're really dependent on this Weaver just being able to stay up and kicking, keep fighting, and stay alive. And they can manage that for a while, but, you know, every dog has his day, and if Hannah can get a good blink call here, it might be today.
They got it. Gets the BKB off first, but it doesn't matter. There is too much damage coming in. Now Weaver squished up like the bug that he is. And not a whole heck of a lot else that they can do.
Very dangerous. We are going to be seeing some high ground defense from the Underlord here, trying to get the Firestorm down, and they can even keep the kinetic field on top of that if they really want to.
Oh, they got the kind of creep wave, but
yeah, they just have to clear one wave. That's the thing. So right now, it forces Clutch Gamers to commit to the first wave here. The glyph pops, and there's only one siege creep keeping the backdoor protected.
They don't have Helm of the Dominator though, so that one is going to be there. And Sand King can cut another creep wave if he wants to. Well, this top creep wave is being pushed in as well. Do you think that Clutch Gamers... Oh, they're going to go in for it. This is kind of a bold move here. They pop the BKB Shiva's Guard as well. Hana is in and might end up paying for this one with his life. He is going to be force staffed out. The glimpse back in, though, and right on top of the kinetic field. He's going to be...
And now back protection finally comes through.
They're on top of him. Geekfam very low. Velo is going to fall. They take down 1-for-1 exchange. Weaver's back up in 9 seconds.
The tower has backdoor protection. There's a shield next to the health bar. Stop hitting it. Like, it's not actually getting anywhere. Finally, they're chucking it down. And there's no initiation from the Sand King. Rodski finally trying to punish it. Breaks the Lincoln.
Oh my god. That was not the play. They glimpse back in another one. They're going to be pulled into that one. Sionix pops the BKB, trying to fight. He's not hitting on the lone druid. Goes for the time lapse. They've now continued to control and take down the OD. Again, a collection of misplays, and it does look like the CM is going to fall. Good defusal blade there to take off the Ghost Scepter.
Such a weird situation. I mean, the entire time the Axe was fighting it out, like 1v2 behind the tier 3, the Lone Druid was just hitting the shield and doing very, very marginal damage when he could have been actually helping out towards what became the secondary fight. Instead, finally, Sand King gets outside the base a little bit. And is able to control the OD enough to get that very important pickoff. So, while I did think that tier 3 would snowball into map control, it does look like it might be the shoe on the other foot here as GeekFam surges forward.
Yeah, and ready to push this tier 2 tower down. Do you think that they want to try and go for the OD buyback? It feels like it might be a bit too scary. But well, never mind. They got him.
They have to do something. So they'll go in here. Rodkey will actually get force staffed away before the Axe Call can come through, and they'll disengage from there. But any opportunity that they can see, any opportunity they can visualize at all, they have to go for it because the game only gets harder from here, I think. I feel with OD getting tankier and tankier, his Midas really paying off, and Lone Druid being able to soak up a lot now as well. It's just GeekFam, you look at their heroes, they have very finite damage output on everybody but essentially the Weaver. Like, everybody's doing a certain cap of magical damage or physical damage. Razor can do quite a bit, but he's not really building for it. So I really feel it's like all on the Weaver and all in the next 5 minutes. GeekFam have to start getting extremely aggressive quickly, or it's just going to get out of their hands.
Well, Daedalus is going to be the pickup for him, but again, you just don't have an answer for this Axe when he finds the call. So Sionix is just going to have to try and outplay him consistently, and not near that 25 talent that just makes such a big difference. It's going to be a tough one.
Did you say Daedalus? I have no idea who would be building Daedalus.
Oh, it was a Daedalus queued up for Weaver. Now it's going back for the Butterfly instead.
Okay, makes sense. Tough spot to be in here. I think that right now Clutch Gamers are very, very comfortable. Not sure if the Aghanim Scepter from Fly Solo is going to be able to accomplish too much, but I mean, it's just kind of one of those items where you're like, oh, okay, well, I have enough gold, let's try it out. And it does provide a decent disarm after the BKBs are out. I think that's the key thing is they don't really have that much control other than Berserker's Call that goes through BKB. So when you can get that Earth Splitter on them under those circumstances, you're feeling a lot better.
Well, see if he ends up being able to finish. I mean, you still want to save for buyback, I'm assuming, at these late stages, or do you think it's worth it for him just to go for the full thing?
This game will be won or lost based on the heroes, so buyback is very important for, I would say, just about everyone. Butterfly is probably an item that you can get away with buying out for, but everything else you have to save.
Oh, Sand King, they're scouted. They spot him out here. Could go for the jump. Raji in some trouble, maybe? I mean, they don't have vision on him anymore with the D ward, but they know they're over here.
DD Weaver going in.
They got him. Caught him out for the moment. Is it going to be enough damage, though? They try and bring him down low. Velo is gone. Now Sionix, eyes onto this OD, trying to bring him low. The BKB is about to wear off, and he ends up being able to find that kill. very much necessary, and now they might be able to look for a little bit more as well on top of it. Axe in some trouble. They drop down the Sentry Ward as well, so they're going to be able to spot him in spite of that Glimmer Cape that came out. And now, CM ulti, they get the glimpse up as well. So everybody is already dropping for Geek Fam after the Lone Druid comes in. And with the CM ulti, everything else used, it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, this lineup for Clutch Gamers doesn't fully rely on the OD, where a lot of alternatives would. Like, sometimes it's the OD being like 80% of the damage and everybody else just playing behind it. But this isn't that kind of a lineup. We are seeing Crystal Maiden and Elder Titan carrying their own weight as supports, and of course a Lone Druid being the top net worth and damage dealer here at this stage. So he's able to do 4,700 damage, and that's almost as much as the full DD Weaver, who was just right-clicking the entire fight.
Now, well, this is definitely gone from bad to worse for Geek Fam off the back of this. I mean, there was a little moment there where it was looking like Clutch Gamers was starting to lose a little bit of a grip, but it does feel like you're saying it's going to get a whole lot harder before it gets better. And the Aghanim Scepter now coming out for the Elder Titan. How long is that disarm actually at the
It's actually
max
a really long
level?
duration.
Yeah.
It is a 6 second now that it's max level, so they'll get a very powerful slow effect and a disarm effect, and it can be removed by BKB, or in this case perhaps time lapse, but
It pierces.
it pierces. So you have to be very careful how you use those cooldowns. And I think most of the time Sionix wants to be using his BKB as soon as the fight begins.
That's one of those weird interactions that you might not even fully remember either, potentially. I mean,
You might not.
You might not.
I tested that shit day one. Okay, I'm like, this is amazing because I wanted it. I really wanted to like have a really cool like wombo combo ultimate from the ET.
Yeah.
I remember the summit after this Aghanims got added. I was like, no tail, please, because he was playing a lot of support AT at the time. So I'm like, buy the Axe, let's go.
Well, you weren't you also the one that got like the Shazam guys to fully reconsider it as well, or is that am I remembering that wrong? This is like your hero, right?
ET is definitely one of my favorite heroes. I like everything that he brings to the table in general. But I talked with Brax, and SVG loves that hero too, so it worked out pretty well. But at the end of the day, that's ancient history. Now we have a match with an Aghanim Scepter, and a lot of hopes and dreams resting on it, I think, because he did buy out for it, and obviously if you don't hit the spell, it's pretty useless.
Yeah, it's a little bit telegraphed as well where it's going. I don't know if you noticed. You can usually see the splitter appearing. Vela's going to push out his bottom lane. BKB for himself as well. This guy, it's going to be quite hard to kill off the Underlord, but I think that they're probably well up to the task, Clutch Gamers.
So Scotty coming out for the Razor. I have to say that in this, it kind of feels like it's a self-defeating item build here. Going for the Shiva's Guard Scotty BKB, you'll be tanky, and you'll be really annoying with your static link. But at the end of the day, if you don't have like a static link that stays on for the full duration, what are you fully accomplishing? I'm not too sure. He did just get 25, so plus 14 static link damage deal per tick is really good.
Yeah.
But he's got to get it on for the full duration, or he's only a defensive hero. Like, I mentioned that Weaver did all the damage that fight with the DD. That's because this Razor has built so defensively. He has to get up in there. He's got movement speed. He just needs to keep the link on at all costs.
All right, well, Lone Druid is there. They find the Burrow Strike. Going to start up the static link in just a second, trying to take off the damage. Oh, it ends up breaking, though, as the Glimpse comes back. Was still able to steal 73, and that is going to be the Lone Druid going down at the start of the fight. Not a bad way to start it, and now looking for some more. They're chasing down Sionix on top of Fly Solo in just a second here. The second Sakuchi, but OD is setting a trap. They get the Glimpse back in, so they don't need to walk forward to where that OD would be, and they throw out the ulti. Does not end up connecting. There's the lift up, and most likely as well, the kill onto that Elder Titan is, well, they jump forward again onto Raji. The CM ulti comes down as well. No way to break it. They are able to kill off that Sand King. Now trying to take a little bit more. Hana is going to pop his Blade Mail, trying to run away from this one. They got a double kill now for Sionix.
Can he blink?
Maybe, possibly, not quite there. They go at the plasma field, and Hana is going to drop from this one. Try to go for the jump, man. The Sanity's Eclipse is well used, but doesn't find a kill.
If only there was an ET aura there, that would have been amazing. But no, it's just not enough to respond with, and GeekFam actually get themselves in a position to take a Roche, or at least own the map for a good minute here. So A lot of damage coming out from both sides. OD definitely carrying his weight, but it's just a problem where, you know, it's just an opening on a lone druid. He gets caught out all by himself, and, you know, there's not much to be done for after that. The glimpse solidifies the fight. They're able to take down 3 heroes, and actually 4 heroes in total, and finish off Roshan. So, good position for them to be in. ET will try to go for a little bit of sleepy sleep action, but he BKBs and finishes the job.
Well done. The cheese is there as well. Crimson decides to come and pick that one up. And
He's almost got an axe himself.
Does this change the complexion of the game to you, in your eyes? Like the static link being able to be at least a little bit more effective. You've got items for Razor that are trying to make sure that that happens. And now you also have an Aegis on the Weaver. How much has this brought Geek Fam back into contention for this?
Hard to evaluate. It really comes down still, I think, to play and skill usage more than anything else. I definitely think that they're back in fighting terms as far as their overall like item values and damage output, but only when they execute properly, only when they get like the big combos. Otherwise, they're still really way too dependent on those abilities, and the heroes themselves don't do enough. We're seeing still no boots on Weaver. He's going MKB on top of his Dragonlance and Desolator, and working towards Diffusal 2. But oh, I like what he's doing there, actually. He actually has Diffusal 2 recipe. I've not seen this before. He has Diffusal 2 recipe on him, and he's saving his last Diffusal charge with a lock on the combining factor. So he can use his last charge, then combine it together, and get the maximum value. That's actually pretty sick.
Value. I love it. That's the best. Try it out in your pubs, everybody. It's one of those that's actually kind of a cool little interaction.
Yeah. I'll do that on my Riki nowadays.
God, that was a rough game that we played. Oh my goodness. Oh God. Anyways, back to this one. 19 to 19, 46 minutes in. We've got just under 5,000 net worth lead into the favor of Clutch Gamers. Experience still very even, but the big storyline for me is that you do have the tier 3 down in the mid lane. They've been able to come out and move across the map, take down shrines, whereas you still have that availability for Clutch Gamers. And we haven't really seen like the big Dark Rift plays this game. For the Underlord, it's been more about like just trying to keep the lanes pushed out with Firestorm.
Yeah, I mean, this is just not like one of those kind of jump across the map pushing games. It's really a situation where they might like siege a base and then pull out with the Dark Rift, but otherwise it doesn't really have nearly the value that they'd like it to. In the meantime, though, he has been able to keep his allies alive a lot. Atrophy Aura is still very effective against heroes like Lone Druid, no matter how much bonus attack damage you build, which in this case turns out to be a lot. But yeah, it's just another one of those games where we're still seeing a lot of farming going on, a lot of back and forth, but kill score is relatively even, net worth not too far apart. Skill usage and initiation, as always, is the key.
Well, a smoke play now coming in from Geek Fam. They're going to place a couple of wards and then make their move up to the top side of the map. We'll see if the TPs come in time. And imagine that they would try and get out of here pretty soon. Smoke will break if they head it up, but yeah, they're not going to quite run into them, it looks like. Everybody gets out. Shiva's a bit too late.
So I'm looking at this Disruptor Aghanim Scepter, and I think that's far more prevalent than the potential of the ETs. It's like you're always going to get a Static Storm out. It's just a question of whether or not it's going to prevent the items. You can maybe stop an OD before he can BKB or Hurricane Pike out.
Right.
Even better is you see an Axe blink in, and he's trying to Blade Mail and all this other stuff, and he blinks into a Static Storm and just dies. Like, that can be a complete game changer.
And he does have the Blink Dagger as well, so can get that extra mobility that this hero sometimes lacks to find his way into the fight without having to put himself at risk of an Axe Call or something like that. So, yeah, all in all, good stuff. The Hurricane Pike is also done now for Teehee, a little bit of extra mobility. Do you think you'd try and switch out the Sanjin Yasha before finishing off, like, the Boots of Travel for the Razor?
I mean, you'd get the BOTs first, I think, and then you could start making your upgrades. Although mobility is still very important for this hero, so I think like Butterfly and using Flutter in the fight is probably the alternative.
Okay.
That said, there is an MKB. Oh, it's on your team, so it's fine.
Sheepstick now done for Underlord as well. Love that. And he also has a cheese too, so he's really not dying.
Yeah, he's in a good spot this game for sure. Actually, I really like the Lotus Orb on Elder Titan in these kinds of games, where you know that it's going to come down to like single target, like things like the Static Link, things like the Hex. Those are going to come into play for sure. And ET is a very good Lotus Orb carrier in general. Can get a lot of value out of it and prevent things to prevent the Lone Druid from getting locked down too hard. So maybe they'll progress that way, but for right now, it's just going to be Shiva's on deck for Axe, and the BKB soon to be picked up by Bing.
So that was the thing, is that whenever people talk about Aghanim's upgrades, like, what are you giving up for taking it? Do you think a Lotus Orb ends up making this game look different, or is it just that it wouldn't have mattered in those fights either way?
So up until now, maybe not, but you see a Hex. And when you see a Hex, you have to start thinking about an item like that that can save your teammates in really desperate situations. Also completely nullified this Razor's presence.
Quite good, definitely. So, speaking of Razor, he is still off in the jungle. They're basically able to constrict the map a ton. You take a look at the vision, there's just this one lonesome ward out on the map, which is maybe a little bit better than we could have expected, whereas it's kind of a similar thing for Geek Fam. Nobody's really been able to maintain solid vision in this game. Gem, obviously there on the ET, as well as the Sand King. Been doing a good job of scouring the land of it. There actually is a Daedalus on the Lone Druid.
Yep. Final picks that up here, so he's... They have to sell anything for that? I feel like he definitely had another item, but all the same, he has a lot of raw attack damage at this point in time, and the damage from the Mjolnir and the Daedalus is not going to be reduced by Atrophy Aura, so there's a lot of value in those, whereas the Butterfly is mostly, for that movement speed and for the evasion.
See you later, nerds! Velo going to get out, and that was ET ulti used, still relatively okay on the cooldown.
Yeah, not too bad. So, yeah, it's just kind of the status quo position where neither one is really looking for anything more than the Roshan right now. Like, obviously, Geek Fam would love to take a tier 3. That would take these shrines off the map, and they'd feel a lot more comfortable about the neutral game. But as it stands right now, I think, in general, Clutch Gamers, they're happy to play together. Geek Fam are happy to spread the map and farm separately, and everybody moves on to this late game stage. Now we're 52 minutes in. Overall, net worth is dead even, with experience leading about 6,000 for Geek Fam themselves. And we do have a lot of level 25 talents coming into play, so we can talk about that a little bit. Like 200 Shikuchi movement speed is really effective. Obviously, everybody's seen the 10-second Savage Roar cooldown reduction, bringing it down to 10 seconds by itself. Anything else really to...
The Underlord one, plus 50 health regen. He's regenning 65 per second. Well, they have actually caught them onto the Weaver. They're on top of him. He is sheathed. He's gone out of there. And meanwhile, as well, the CM going to just pop the ulti, immediately takes it off. That's 2 dead. Oh, man, that was not the play. Velo needs to get out of here, but doesn't have the mobility, does not have his Dark Rift either. And this time, he will be brought down.
A very critical set of pick-offs. They're just going to try to push out the mid lane as quickly as possible. Razor might try to go for one more plasma field, but sees way too many reinforcements and just kind of heads out to push out bottom instead. He'll TP back as soon as they start approaching the base, and that's when Weaver's buyback is most likely going to be forced out. They don't have the Rain of Fire to work with here as the Underlord. Actually, he's about to get his buyback gold, so could definitely start to get involved in this if necessary.
Yeah, Sand King is the big one who's lacking. Still 375 gold away from that one. Buyback on the Underlord, trying to hold on to that Weaver. It feels unlikely that they're going to be able to get it. The call, they got him! No, he's going to end up dropping again! The Static Storm is pretty good, but there is not the follow-up at this point. They don't have any damage stolen right now. Trying to take it away from that ODT, but he's dropping down solo already. There's so much damage being thrown at this guy. The call again onto the Weaver. He's going down, and I think that what we kind of knew could have happened for a long time, it's finally happened. Clutch Gamer is just going to run away with this one.
Yeah, they've been in a strong position this entire game, but being able to finish it off in such a fashion, Armel just absolutely obliterates here, the harbinger of Geek Fam's demise. And yeah, it's just a rough spot to be in. The Weaver really had his options limited in terms of like where he could go with this game. He was very one-dimensional in terms of his potential. He goes in, he right-clicks things, hope it works out. Like, it just seemed like pretty limiting. I had some hopes for this Blink Aghanim Disruptor, but the only Aghanim Static Storm we got to see had absolutely no follow-up, and the Weaver was a bit hesitant on the buyback. So, in the end, it's going to be GG. It is going to be Clutch Gamers getting a much-needed win here in the group stage to try to move themselves forward here in the Southeast Asian qualifiers for the Kiev